Welcome to the Overstock Academy weekly podcast, where we talk about finding name brand store overstock products and reselling them online on places such as eBay, Amazon, Shopify, and even your own website. So, just to recap on the last episode, getting fired from my job on my day off was probably the lowest point of my life as a human being, as a wife, as a mother. But that low point became the launch pad for an amazing journey that led me to create a $500,000 business, which I then sold for a high six-figure amount. Now, through trial and error, costly mistake after costly mistake, I created this amazing business in what now looks like a short period of time. But I can tell you, at that time, it certainly felt like an eternity. Through it, I endured numerous personal battles, probably not that different from what most business people go through when they're starting out. And I'm talking about things like borrowing money from relatives and almost destroying relationships, robbing Peter to pay Paul, being days away from my car being repossessed, getting extensions on utility bills, plus having them shut off on more than one occasion, buying online courses from gurus and joining Facebook groups that promised heaven but delivered vague, useless information. And sadly realizing that selling locally alone just wasn't cutting it. That was when my husband and I started racking our brains for something to generate some extra income online. Now, I knew people made money online because I shopped online all the time. My thought was, if I could sell on the internet, then I could do that right from home, right? But like most people, I had no idea what to sell or even where to find it. Now, even worse, whenever I told anyone what I was thinking to do, most people kept telling me, "You're nuts," or "It's too late to start making money on the internet." Even, "You can't compete with the big boys." Now, I didn't let that stop me. I was determined to find a way to start and perfect it along the way. I went through a never-ending pattern of buying courses and programs, and I used the guru's vague cookie-cutter suggestions that were never meant to work to begin with. Finally, I knew it was time to walk away, even if figuring out on my own was scary. I remember venting to my husband, and he said something that made me chuckle at the time, but it stuck with me and really inspired me to blaze my own trail. He said, "You know, cavemen didn't have eBay. At some point, someone figured that out and pioneered online selling. If someone else did it, so can you." Thankfully, all my effort was about to be rewarded by way of a really freakish coincidence. And here's what happened. So my husband, he was in the IT industry at the time, and it was around this time that it happened to accidentally damage a client's laptop. Now, while most computer techs would find something or someone else to blame or make excuses, he didn't. Anyone who knows him will tell you that he takes his clients' trust very seriously. Now, in his mind, he only had two options. He could either replace the part that he had damaged or buy the customer a new laptop. It was an old laptop, and he really didn't want to replace it with a brand new one. So he started looking for the actual part. He called all of his suppliers, and no one had the part. He couldn't even find it on eBay. That's how old it was. Finally, he was at the end of his rope. Now, just as a Hail Mary pass, he spoke to his sales rep, Justin, at a local CompUSA to see if he had any laptops on clearance. After my husband quickly explained the situation to Justin, he suggested that my husband go to the store and take a look at some damaged laptops that they had in the warehouse. Now, these were laptops that had sustained damage during shipping. So desperate for an answer to this emergency, my husband took the 30-minute trip to the store to have a look for himself. When he got there, he found that they had about 50 high-end laptops that had broken screens. Now, since they were taking up room in the warehouse, CompUSA was only asking $1,000 for the entire lot. Now, that breaks down to only $20 a piece for a laptop. So he did some quick research on his phone, and he found out that these laptops would have sold for anywhere between $300 and $1,000 each. So, of course, an idea sparked in his mind, and he wanted to buy the entire lot. Me, I was totally against this idea. I remember even saying to him, who the heck wants to break down and list 100 pieces of little laptop parts. Not me. But his intuition told him that this was an awesome deal, so he went ahead and he bought them. Thank God he did. Okay, after replacing all the broken screens, which was on average about $50 per screen, he went ahead and listed them for sale on eBay. Within a couple of weeks, they were all sold, and he had made a decent profit of over $4,000. Now, this definitely made me take notice. Now I was on board, and we decided to see if Justin had any more damaged laptops. And luckily, he did. So we bought them, we ran the process again, and made a killer profit again. Now we knew we had something. Now, unfortunately, in our eagerness for more and more laptops, Justin realized that the items were highly profitable. So rather than calling us exclusively when more became available, he set up an auction system. Now all of his clients, including us, could bid on them and he could make more money. Inevitably, this drove up the prices of the computers. So this was disappointing and frustrating for us, but in hindsight, it was probably the best thing that ever happened. Having had a taste of this amazing experience, we decided to do what was best for us. We started looking for other vendors that had similar products for sale. What we found out was that every single national retailer and big box store had similar programs, just under various different names. They may all call the process different, but they all do it. This opened up a whole new overstock world to us. Once again, it was time for me to learn. I started relentlessly researching anything and everything I could find about the overstock industry. At the time, it was just a concept, basically something I didn't even have a name for. All I knew was that I had to get into it. That was the great part. Now, the scary part was this. The learning curve was huge. Now, as you know by now, mistakes in business cost you money. Now, that's one way to learn, also known as the hard way. I don't like the hard way. I prefer to learn from people who have been successful at what I'm trying to do, right? So once again, I looked for courses and guides. Honestly though, the ones that I found did not offer me answers. In fact, they kind of pissed me off. There were no specifics. Everything was completely vague and unanswered. Among the ones I bought was a highly reviewed guide on the overstock industry. It not only had claimed that I would quit my job in 30 days, and well, I was already unemployed thanks to my firing, but they even had a list of recommended and verified wholesalers. I mean, this guide had amazing reviews. Everyone in their Facebook group was fanatically raving about this guru. So at first, like most newbies, I was enticed by all the fandom and hoopla before I bought the guide. But once I was inside, all I got was a PDF document full of vague, non-committal concepts and no answers. The vendors that this guy recommended were basically advertisers, brokers, and middlemen who marked up prices and ate up profits. At this point, it was pretty clear that I had to suck it up and brace myself for the legendary school of hard knocks. I had to do this my own way. Now, I made a ton of rookie mistakes. I lost a ton of money. In future episodes, I will tell you about these mistakes so you can avoid them and jump straight to my solution. So to quickly recap, I got fired on my day off in front of my kids. I started a business that sold pet accessories locally. That business fell flat on its face. I started looking to sell online instead, and I got a ton of bad advice. Then I stumbled onto the overstock industry. And in trying to learn how it works, I had bought several useless courses and guides. Overstock Nation. My main goal when I started the overstock business was to make extra income and to do it from home. I just wanted to be home with my daughter and raise her rather than send her to daycare. Now, for that to happen, I knew that my business had to get to a point where it was consistently profitable. I wanted to pay down our debts, afford an actual vacation that involved more than just taking the kids to a local splash pad, and to have a financially comfortable life. Now, keep in mind, I didn't start this business with a lot of money. I simply didn't even have the money, which meant my process had to be not only efficient, but had to be inexpensive as well. I only added on to the business things that were absolutely necessary to make more money. I mean, that was the only goal. But it went beyond all of that, and it was all just mind-blowing. I went from my messy garage to a well-organized warehouse. I went from buying 1 or 2 wholesale lots at a time to full truckloads. I had sales from $800 a month that skyrocketed to over $35,000 a month consistently. I went from shipping a couple of items each week to shipping over 70 to 100 items every single day. Heck, I even went from never owning a passport to traveling to the Masai Mara in Africa for a safari exploration. I share some pictures of all of this in the episode notes at overstockacademypodcast.com/103. Overstock Nation, please understand that I'm not saying all of this to be that guy. You know, the guy with the Lamborghini telling you to buy my book or buy my course. I'm telling you all of this because before, I was literally broke. I did go through the hardship and a lot of the twists and turns in trying to figure out my own business. I want you to see what is possible. And no, I'm not a millionaire and I don't live in Beverly Hills, but my family and I live pretty comfortably. We are now debt-free, and I created a business that sold for a high 6-figure amount. I want the same thing for you. Let's talk about that last part, which was selling my business. When I received the offer to sell my business, I have to be honest, I was shocked, and here's why. 1, I never listed it for sale. 2, even though I was making really good money, I didn't think the business was ingenious or special. You know, I just thought it was a normal business, and that's how all normal businesses looked and operated. You know, however, the humongous number offered for my business was a kind of like a pinch yourself to make sure you're awake type number. And 3, I didn't know the legal aspects of it all. I had never sold a business before. Now, to say I was confused is a total understatement. That's when I started asking myself, why would anybody pay so much for this? What did this buyer see that I didn't? Am I missing something or are they tricking me? No way. This is too good to be true. And then my last thought was, damn, I need some help. Naturally, the first person I talked to was my husband. And if you ask anyone who knows us, they'll tell you we are not afraid to take a chance and see what fate has in store for us. Also, we had just had our second child, and there were times where I had to take him to work with me into the warehouse. And I kind of missed working from home like I used to before my business outgrew our house. So we're like, you know, what's the worst that could happen? Let's explore this whole selling the business thing. So my husband called a client of his who was a personal injury attorney. And yeah, we actually thought that all lawyers were the same. Thankfully, though, that attorney put him in touch with a business broker. Now, this is when things went from mind-blowing to nuts, okay? The business broker, her name was Peggy, and she was a really sweet lady. She had previously sold her business before she became a broker. She came in and explained the process and that her fee to help would be a percentage of the sale. Now, judging from the Beamer she was driving, she really must have been good at this. We provided her with all the documentation that she needed, and she immediately started her process of coming up with a fair value for the business. Now, we needed to be comfortable knowing that the offer on the table was not undervaluing or overvaluing the business. Plus, we also wanted to know why a business would be assigned to one value or another. Now, when she returned a few days later, her assessment was that the mind-blowing number on the offer was at the bottom of the range. Meaning, to quote Peggy, this number on the offer is the I'm desperate to sell number. She added that if we formally listed the business for sale, we could easily get significantly more. Now remember, she's talking to me, the person who, 1, failed miserably at her first business and was shamefully in debt to her family because of it, someone who got a real job and then got fired on my day off, someone who bootstrapped this business from her garage, and all of this just looking to pay off a few bills and make ends meet. And she's telling me to decline an offer that has more zeros than I had ever seen in my life. So what do you think we did? Yep, we formally listed the business for sale. Now, remember I told you things went from mind-blowing to nuts? 9 days after the business was listed, we received 7 offers and a freaking bidding war between potential buyers ensued. Now, we accepted the highest offer that was even higher than Peggy had anticipated. There are no words to describe the feeling that I had at the closing table, signing those documents and holding the cashier's check in my hand. I literally had to excuse myself because I was sobbing like a baby, like snot and all. It was disgusting and embarrassing. Now, as you might have guessed, due to the confidentiality agreement signed at closing, I cannot publicly disclose the numbers, but that's besides the point anyway. All I can tell you is that it was middle finger to my old boss money. It was pay off all your debt and buy a brand new car in cash money. Seriously though, I did buy a car with 3 miles on it. 3 miles. Now, after I sold my business, I found myself at times having absolutely nothing to do. I would browse the forums and the Facebook groups that I was a part of, and I kept seeing a lot of people who were struggling with problems that I had already overcome. For example, people were asking constantly, where do I find profitable products to sell? How do I manage inventory? How do I avoid losing money on shipping? How do I avoid getting scammed by vendors or buyers? Now, the answers that most people were getting from the other group members were just flat out wrong. And the so-called gurus running these groups were not any better. They always gave vague answers to avoid being exposed as frauds. Now, here's the thing. Once you dive deeper into the overstock industry, you will learn that 1, no one will teach you in any clear step-by-step way. You may find nuggets here and there, but you might as well be on an Easter egg hunt in the Florida Everglades. 2, most people attempting to teach have never actually done what they're talking about to a point of serious success. They basically figured that due to high interest in the industry, they might as well make a lot of money teaching vague ideas and concepts to gullible newbies. You'll find that 3, most overstock retailers also see the opportunity to take advantage of newbies. They offer wholesale for their leftover crap, and that's why in the upcoming episode, I show you in detail how to avoid these double-dipping fake wholesalers. And number 4, you're going to find out that people are making huge technical mistakes in pricing and shipping that could and has often cost them their entire business. All in all, my conscience kind of forced me into this. You see, even though I had made a small fortune selling my successful business, I knew that I was one of the lucky few. For every one success story like mine, there were countless others who had failed, given up, and lost money along with hope. Now, I had to do something. At first, I decided to chime in and help whenever I could. However, after a while, I realized that I was answering the same questions over and over, and honestly, I couldn't keep up with the requests for help. So I started the process of creating small guides for folks who needed help. And well, like all the things I've done over the last 7 years, it didn't stay small for very long. There is so much to cover in order to build a sustainable overstock Amazon and eBay business. There was no way I could put it all together in one little guide, which is why that guide evolved into what is now Overstock Academy and this podcast. I truly hope this show is beneficial to you. If it was, feel free to share. There's plenty of profits to go around. Also, please rate and review us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send them in and we'll get those answered for you. My email address is amy@overstockacademy.com. Also note that for the benefit of other listeners, your question may be read out loud and answered in an upcoming show. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Those question and answer sessions are pure gold. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you again in the next episode.